All right, court is calling 2022 CR 11724, State of Texas versus Jordan Robbins. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Raymond Saldana.
Daniel Rosengard.
For the
John Foley
defense?
for the defense, Your Honor. Chris Choate for the defense.
And are you Mr. Robbins?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I've been informed by the deputies that the jurors are all present. Are parties ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Defense is ready, Your
We
Honor.
are, Judge.
All right.
Also, just as a matter of, part of the trial, we're gonna be admitting State's Exhibit 7, which is the redaction form of the records that we had conferred on. We just have to do it on the record, and I guess in the
Yes.
presence of the jury.
So are you all in agreement with number
Your Honor.
7 being admitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you can offer it in front of the jury. State, it's still your case in chief.
Yes, Judge. Prior to calling a witness, the state would just offer State's Exhibit 7 with the agreed upon redactions in the evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit number 7 is admitted without objection. State, call your next witness.
The state calls Officer Nicholas Guerrero to the stand.
All right, if you'll raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so members of the jurors and the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record.
Nicholas Guerrero.
State.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Officer Guerrero. How are you?
Morning, good.
Can you tell us how you are currently employed?
I am a corporal with the Universal City Police Department,
And how long have you worked for the Universal City Police Department?
about 4.5 years.
And where did you work prior?
I was a deputy sheriff with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office,
And how long were you deputy sheriff for?
10 years.
And can you talk about some of your roles and responsibilities as an officer with Universal City Police Department?
One of my roles is conducting crime prevention there within our city, enforcing traffic laws, along with criminal laws as well.
Can you talk about just the training it takes to become a law enforcement officer?
So I did approximately 14 months with SAC, San Antonio Alamo Colleges, to obtain my peace officer license. After that, continuous yearly training just to make sure that I'm current with the state and law.
I'd like to fast forward a little bit. Do you remember if you were working on around September 19th of 2022?
Yes, sir.
And at any point were you called to have a call for service?
Yes, sir.
And what did that call for service entail?
It was a lobby call. It was individual coming in to report an issue or a crime that occurred in our city.
What was the crime that they wanted to report?
So it was a sexual assault of a child.
And once you speak to that person who wanted to make the report.
Yes, sir.
And do you remember that person's name?
Not off the top of my head.
Would seeing a copy of your report help refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Officer Guerrero, you can talk about it, but please don't read off report.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So do you remember the name of the person that you spoke to at the station?
Yes, sir.
And what was her name?
Alexandra Reed.
And who was she calling to make this report about?
Can you repeat that?
Who was she looking to make this report about?
About her ex,
And do you know what his name is?
Jordan Robbins.
And with that, were you able to get an understanding of where this offense allegedly took place?
Yes, sir. It occurred in our city.
And do you know where in the city, like an address or something?
It's going to be off of Walnut Springs in a subdivision.
And is that in?
Yes, sir. It is.
And when you saw Miss Reed, who was she? So who was she saying that this occurred to? Like this occurred to?
Her daughter.
And do you recall what her daughter's name?
Forgive me. I'm
How was Miss Reed's demeanor during this?
shook,
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
upset, talking, visibly shaking, emotional, I should say.
And did she go into the station with anyone else?
Say that again, sir?
Did she go into the station to make this report alone, or was she with someone?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was just her.
It was just her.
Mhm.
And besides, you did take a report from your encounter with Mr. Reed.
Yes, sir.
Besides that, did you have any other role in this case?
No, sir.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Officer Guerrero.
Morning, sir.
Can you tell me, did you review any documents or anything before you testified today?
Briefly.
Okay. And do you still have the?
Yes, sir, it's right
report there. Can you just help us and tell us the date? When did Ms. Reed come to the University Police Department to file this report?
This one was going to be 9/19/22, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you double check? Is that
Yes, sir. I'll double check. September 19th, 2022.
okay? And so this was in September. Is on September 21st, 2022. Were you aware that she had already filed a police report with shirts?
Yes, sir.
In February.
She notified me. She, during our initial conversation, when she was telling me, she did say that she was talking to Shirts. She filed a police report with Shirts. Shirts informed her to make another police report with our department.
So about 5 months before she had, give or take, I did 7 months. 7 months, I'm sorry, my math. Approximately 7 months before she had filed a police report with Shirts.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that she was visibly upset.
From what it looked like, yes, sir.
She said she was shook. You didn't do any follow-up on this investigation. Why not?
So with this, it got passed to our CID,
What does that mean?
Criminal Investigations Division.
And what did they do with the case?
So they're the ones that followed up with the case. After that, I took the initial report. It got forwarded to CID.
And can you tell from the offense report if anything else was done on the case? There's no supplements or anything like that.
Not that I'm aware of, sir. That's something that would have to, I guess, come up with CID at our department.
Okay. As far as you know, nothing else was done.
Not that I'm aware, no, sir.
Okay. I'd pass the witness, Your Honor.
Say,
Briefly, Judge, Officer Guerrero, you mentioned that Shirts informed Ms. Reed to come to your police department, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she did just that, correct?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Very briefly. Did you talk to any of the police that were with Shirts?
No, sir.
Are you familiar with the detective there named Hillary Murphy?
No, sir.
Never heard anything about her?
No, sir.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Judge.
all right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Witness excuse from the state.
Excuse me, defense, Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you may step down. All right, could I have parties approach for about 2 minutes, okay? Remember my previous instructions. Everyone please rise for the jury. State, what lesser included are you requesting?
Indecency with a child contact.
Defense?
If
I will tell you what, if there are no objections, because defense, it appears that you were not ready for the state to ask for the lesser included, and state, what we can do is I'll allow you to rest with the right to reopen. And then you can still bring up the lesser included offense because it appears that the defense is not ready to argue it. Is there any objections to that? Because there's a legal process to everything. But defense, are you waiving the objection you would have if the state had rested?
Am I waiving the objection if they had?
For example,
Subject.
they're supposed to make
Yes, yeah.
this request. And because we can't go with your case in chief unless state you don't want to rest yet. But I will say that the defense is allowed to proceed out of order so that they can proceed with their witnesses before you rest. And that way you'll still have the opportunity to make your request for the lesser included offense. And then that will give the defense a chance to raise whatever objections, and both parties will still get a chance to rest in front of the jury.
That's fine, as long as I get the opportunity to request it later on, it's fine.
Yes.
Just so I'm clear, Your Honor, if we do it out of order, the motion that I've raised outside the presence of the jury for instructed verdict, directed verdict, we would do that at that time?
Yes.
It's unclear? Okay, that makes sense, so I got it. It just gives me a little bit of opportunities because the arguments are kind of opposite, given the facts. And I just need a little time to think it through.
And so what I can tell parties is the state is allowed to ask for a lesser included,
Yeah.
but I know you're just not ready to proceed with your argument. Is that correct?
That's correct, Judge.
All right. So then, you're still planning on presenting witnesses, even though technically the state has not rested,
Yes, Judge.
and you wish to proceed with putting on witnesses, even though the state has not rested.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
And state you have no objection to allowing the defense to proceed before you rest?
That's correct, Judge.
All right.
That's the most effective use of our time.
Yes.
All right. And then before we go over on Monday, what we'll do then is I'll give you all a chance to make your arguments for the lesser included. Defense, I'll give you your chance. Once the state rests on Monday, I will give you a chance to make what arguments you want to make for potentially a directed verdict. And then after that argument is made, if I don't grant it, you will then rest and close, and that'll be done in front of the jury. Does everyone follow me?
Trying, I've never done this before, but yes.
Okay, and it's just that I want to give both sides, of course, the opportunity to make their arguments they want to make. I mean, otherwise, what would end up happening is the jury would be recessing for another 30 minutes if you all want it. How long would it take you to research whether or not you have an objection to their lesser included?
Yeah, 30 minutes. Okay, must we get
Okay.
online and.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's have the jury recess for 30 minutes. Tell them we'll bring them back at 3:30. And that's no, it's longer than 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So tell them 3:30 and we'll bring them back. You can do your research. If the internet isn't working, let us know. We'll let you use
Okay.
the internet we have. And then once they've made their argument for or against the ability for you to have a lesser included offense, we'll bring the jury back in for 5 minutes so you can rest, and then you can make any other arguments you want to make. All right, any questions? All right, thank
Back
you.
on course. Thank you.
Yes. All right, and so state, just so he's aware, we're off the record. They're going to be asking for one lesser included, correct?
Yes. For
And
count
that's
one.
indecency with the child by contact.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. State, what are you requesting?
Judge, the state is requesting a lesser included of count one. Count one is an aggravated sexual assault of a child, and we're asking for an indecency with a child contact. We'd like to point out to Article 37.09 of the Code of Criminal Procedure regarding the case law. I think it's a two-part test determining number one.
You can have a seat.
Determining number one, whether the offense indeed is a lesser included offense of the alleged offense is a question of law. And number two is determining whether there is evidence that supports giving the instruction to the jury. According to the case law, Royster v. State, 622 Southwest 2D 244, or 442, I'm sorry. There needs to be some evidence on the record that would permit a jury rationally to find that if the defendant is guilty, he is guilty only of the lesser included offense. The state is not bound by the second prong under the Royster Roseau test when it wants to add a lesser included offense to the jury instruction. Indecency with a child contact is indeed a lesser included offense of aggravated sexual assault of a child. And with regards to the second prong, even if the state was found by the second prong, there was sufficient evidence that was presented through the testimony of Arabella, and also through the outcry of, through the testimony of Arabella, that there was, contact of the sexual organ of the defendant on the complainant's person. She did also testify to the firmness of the organ, which tends to prove the element of sexual intent, the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. For those reasons, we ask for the lesser included offense.
Okay, so what specific lesser included are you asking for?
Indecency contact with the defendant's sexual organ.
All right, defense.
We would object in that while indecency with a child by contact is often seen as a lesser included, in this particular case, well, second prong is not met. There is not sufficient evidence to establish that it's done for the intent of sexual gratification, considering the testimony elicited suggested that it was nighttime, and the individual, because the individual had direction, is not necessarily used for sexual gratification. It's a physiological condition. Furthermore, the complainant testified there was a movement, there was only squeezing hard, that his hands did not touch her genitals, that her hands did not touch his genitals, that there was no thrusting, there was no rocking, just lying still. So there is no evidence that this was done for the sexual gratification. Therefore, they have not satisfied all the prongs of decency of the child by sexual contact.
All right. So state, back to you. So you're asking indecency with a child by contact. How? Touching of what? What you're alleging?
By causing the child, by causing Arabella Robbins to touch the part of the genitals of the defendant.
And this is under count 1, correct?
Correct.
So you're asking for the honor about 23rd day of August 2020?
The same date, Judge, yes.
All right. The court will allow the lesser included offense. All right, let's bring the jurors in. All right, everyone, please. We're missing. All right, state, call your next witness.
State rests.
Defense.
Your Honor, we need to make a motion outside the hearing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll just stand right outside in the hallway and we'll bring you back in if necessary. Everyone, please rise. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, defense, the court will hear your argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the defense would move for a directed verdict on counts 1, 2, and 3. On count 1, there was no evidence that the sexual organ contacted or Arabella Robbins contacted the sexual organ. On count 2, the state did not prove that this offense was done with the intent to arouse or gratify the desire of the person. And likewise, on count 3, the state did not prove and the offense was done with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of the person.
All right, so with state, let's address counts 2 and count 3. The defense states that you presented no evidence that it was done with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. So that's what needs to be addressed.
Your Honor, regarding the touching of the genitals of Arabella Robbins, she did testify, and so did Mom through her outcry, that Arabella was taking a bath and the defendant goes towards Arabella to use the washcloth and ends up in the motion that she utilized was moving the fingers playing like the piano. Through Mom's testimony, she indicated that when she was married with the defendant, that was the way the defendant initiated foreplay before they had sexual relationships. So for those reasons, count 2 is satisfied that way. And count 3 talks about the time when Arabella sits on the defendant's lap, and when she stated that when she sits down that it was hard and it hurt her, and the shorts were dry, and when she got up, his shorts were wet. That indicates enough by a mere scintilla of evidence that the elements have been met.
All right, with regards to the defense's arguments with count 2 and count 3, that will be denied. We'll move to count 1.
With count 1, Your Honor, the state is asking for the lesser included offense. There appears to be there was no evidence regarding any direct contact between.
But no, let's back up a little bit. With count one, they're not objecting to your lesser included offense. They're just on count one. So count one, let's assume the lesser included offense is not there at this time. So they're asking for a directed verdict on count one. So are you saying there was no evidence?
The evidence that I would point to the court would be I believe it was the medical records. They mentioned something about Arabella mentioning the stomach hurting and the bleeding. We can infer that because Arabella testified that after the contact that she went to the restroom and she started bleeding, that would merit a sexual organ contact between the defendant's genitals and the complainant's genitals.
All right, defense, you want to address the state's argument to number one?
On this, the medical records, the stomach hurting is inconclusive, especially for a person who's medical records also establish their stomach hurt in many other contexts. And the bleeding, again, the complaint testified was stayed on. And bleeding does not mean that there was genital contact.
All right, so you're stating that there must be contact without underclothing.
Sorry, Judge, on sexual contact, there must be, or on count one, there must be organ to organ contact in this case.
Under the clothing, correct? Okay. All right, state, you want to address that? Is there any evidence?
The only thing that I can remember is the complainant testifying that she wears different kinds of pajamas. While the complainant didn't directly say that there was contact, there could be that mere scintilla that while that her clothes or her underwear could have moved, and therefore there have been some contact in that area.
But was any evidence presented that there was contact? That's the question.
I do not believe so, Judge.
All right, so there's no evidence to count one, correct, state?
That's not the element of skin to skin contact, Judge. Yes, that is correct.
So no evidence was presented where this jury could, beyond a reasonable doubt, find the defendant guilty of count one. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right, then with regards to count one, the defense's request will be granted. All right, so is everyone ready to proceed with bringing the jury in?
Yes, would you like us to bring our first witness in?
Yes, please.
Defense would call Tammy Robbins.
Okay.
Would you like me to?
Yes, if you'll have her on the witness stand. All right, just have a seat. If you'll bring the jurors in.
All right, for the jury.
State has rested. Defense, call your witness.
Defense calls Tammy Robbins.
All right, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up for members of the jury and the court reporter. State your name for the record.
Tammy Robbins.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Ms. Robbins. And you're going to need to remember, you may want to pull that microphone a little closer to you and speak up. And remember that you're talking to the jury when you speak, okay? Can you introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Tammy Robbins. I'm Jordan Smith.
Okay. And Ms. Robbins, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you married?
Yes, I've been married to Jordan's father for 46 years.
Okay.
We have 4 grandchildren and twins on the way.
Okay, but how many children do you have?
Oh, okay. We have 3 boys. Jordan is our youngest son.
Have you ever testified in court before?
Never.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask you questions, and remember just to listen to what I'm asking and speak up so the court reporter can hear you, okay?
Okay.
So you say you have 4 grandchildren?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us how old are they?
Our oldest grandson, Hayden, is 15, and then Hadley is 12, and then Arabella is 10, and then our youngest grandson, Jed, is 9.
Okay. Can you, I really want to focus in on your son, Jordan, okay? And his relationship with Alexandra. Do you remember when they first met?
Jordan was in college. I know they had been in high school together, but didn't really know each other in high school. And kind of connected after high school.
Okay, and you're gonna have to speak up for me because I've
Okay.
got, there's something right behind me, so I'm having a hard time hearing you. So they met in college?
Yes,
Okay. When did it date for a while before you met, Alexandra?
no, I met her pretty quick. I think after, they had been dating a little bit. Jordan had told me, a little bit about her.
Okay, and they seem to have a serious relationship?
I think so.
Do you remember a time when they were dating, that she was involved in an accident?
Yes.
And without talking about, what happened in the accident, did you visit her at the hospital?
We did. Yes, my husband and I did.
Did the whole family visit her there?
I believe my mom and dad did, and Randy and I. I'm not sure about the other two brothers. I'm not sure about Jason, Jordan, and Justin.
Okay. It's fair to say the family was there to visit with her when she was at the hospital.
Yes.
Do you remember, was she in a serious accident? Was she severely hurt?
She was, yes. There was the intoxication assault accident. She was, in a coma, pretty much. I remember going after she got out of the hospital. I remember going to rehab when she was in rehab, and just thinking how different she looked, that I wondered if she would ever be the same.
Okay. Do you remember how long she was in a coma?
A couple of days.
And how long was she at the hospital?
Couple of weeks, maybe a week or so.
And then she was in rehabilitation for after that?
Yes.
Was she residing at a rehabilitation center?
She was, yes.
How long was she there?
A month or so.
It's physical and mental rehabilitation?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, for the brain injury.
Okay. So she got through that. Did she still, or she and Jordan still dating at that time?
Yes. I mean, Jordan was at the hospital. I remember that he didn't leave the hospital during those first couple of days.
And did they continue to date after she was outside of rehab?
Yes.
Did their relationship continue to grow after that?
Yes.
Was there a time when you found out that Alexandra was pregnant?
Yes, they both came to the house and told my husband and I that she was expecting.
Do you remember how long that was after she got out of the hospital?
6 to 8 months,
Okay.
maybe.
What happened next? Did they decide to get married?
Yes, they, we talked about it. We talked about some dates. When would be the best time. And then we just, kind of decided on a date. We said we would, help with the wedding expenses.
Okay. And so they were married, and about how much longer thereafter was Arabella born?
They were married on February 22nd of 2014, and Arabella was born June 25th of 2014.
Okay. So I'm just, in general, the first year or so of their marriage, did it seem like they were doing well?
Yes, although, of course, after the accident, I had, noticed some changes in her personality. She was, not as,
Your Honor, I'm gonna
Maybe a
object
little-
to, I'm gonna object to relevance, and also, I think that would be improper character evidence.
All right, re-ask your question, please.
And my question was, did they seem like that they were getting along okay?
Yes, at that
I'm
point.
sorry, just one second. When you say they, who is they?
That Jordan and Alex were getting along okay?
Yes, yes,
And they were raising Arabella together.
yes, yes.
I guess that there was a time that they, for whatever reason, they decided to get a divorce. Do you remember how long that was after they were married?
About 2 years.
And did it seem like it was amicable at that time?
Yes, yes,
So at that point they separated and they after their divorce, right?
yes.
Where were you living at the time?
We were living in Livonia, Texas.
And was once the couple separated, was there a time that you moved in with Jordan?
Yes, yes, we sold our home in Livonia and we were going to build a new home. And the home sold very quickly. And we were like, well, you know, what are we going to do? And so we moved in with our middle son for you know, he had the 3 children. We were a little crowded. And so when Jordan and Alex split, Jordan's name was on the lease of the rent house that they had. And so he had, you know, Alex moved out and he told, you know, my husband, he said, why don't you and Dad move in with me? You know, I'm just, you know, it's just me. And
remember, we're not supposed to talk about what anyone else said.
okay,
So you guys moved in with Jordan?
yes,
Okay. And how long did you live with him?
2 years,
2 years. So that would have been from when to when?
2017 to 2019.
Okay. And during that time, was Arabella coming over to the house?
Yes, yes,
Was that part of their standard visitation arrangement?
yes, yes,
And so, okay, you and your husband were around when Arabella was there.
all the time, yes.
Did you ever see, well, tell us what kind of dad was Jordan towards Arabella?
He was a great dad. He, you know, was always asking me, you know,
Remember, we're not going to talk about what other people said. And you can tell us what you observed.
he would ask me, you know, how do I do her hair? And I would, you know, I would show him, you know, what, you know, how he was concerned about, you know, if she was, you know, she needed to go to the doctor or,
Okay. So as far as you observed, was he a good father? He took good care of her.
yes.
And did you ever observe anything that you thought was inappropriate as far as between father and daughter?
Never, never.
What about in the way he cared for Arabella? Did he ever neglect her?
No,
Was she fed and clothed properly?
absolutely, yes,
Did you guys keep a clean house?
absolutely, yes.
And so at some point you moved where?
We moved to the house that we had built in Seguin.
Okay, and is that what everyone calls the lake house?
The lake house, the family lake house, yes.
Okay. And is that how many bedrooms is in that house?
There's 5 bedrooms,
And that's where you reside?
yes,
Is there a dock on that property?
yes, yes.
So about how old was Arabella when you moved into that house?
Around 6,
And would the kids come over to the house?
every weekend.
So on a normal weekend, who would be at the house?
Now, my husband and I, our other 2 sons, and my middle son's children, Hayden and sorry, Hayden and Hadley and Jet and Arabella, the 4 grandkids.
Okay. And so that started when she was about 6?
Yes.
Um, so I understand that the kids spent a lot of time in the water.
Yes.
Were they supervised by adults?
Always.
Did they?
And Jordan was there the majority of the time. And if Jordan was going to go help his dad, prep for food or, get barbecue ready, or whatever, he would look at me, and say, I'm going to run up to the house, I want you to, just a special eye on Arabella. And then he would tell Arabella, Mimi's going to watch you. I'll be right back. And
Would there be other children around as well?
yes,
Okay.
other adults. I was never down there like by myself with the children.
Who would be around, who would be around when the children were there, as far as the adults?
Our really good friends, Nathan and Renee, and their children were usually there also. Nathan was our oldest son's college roommate, and we were very close to them.
So it's fair to say there were a lot of adults watching the children.
Yes,
Did the children ever swim without life vest on?
no, that was the rule when they were getting ready to go down to the dock. The kids had to have their life vest on.
Were the children fed and taken care of when they were at the lake house?
Yes, if you knew my husband and how he liked to cook, yes, there was always plenty of food.
Did they go without food?
Never.
Was there a time when, do you remember a time when your husband would have taken the kids down to the corner store?
Yes,
And why do you remember that?
because Alex made a big deal about it.
So, do you remember what happened that day?
Yes, yeah. Their grandfather was usually, like I said, busy cooking and doing things, and they, for some reason, had it in their mind, all 4 of the grandkids, were, Papa, we want you to take us to get some candy. And they were, no, please, Papa. And he's, no, please, Papa, take us to the store. And he finally did, and they were cheering. And, he's, all right, come on, let's go. And so they all got in the truck and went around the corner to the store to get candy.
Okay. And that was the only time that happened?
Yes.
Were the children ever in any danger when that happened?
No.
Would it surprise you to hear that Arabella would have been tired after some of these weekends when she returned home?
Yes.
It would surprise you?
That
She returned home tired?
tired, yes, I mean, I would think she would be tired, from the dock to the house is a pretty long walk, and, we would be back and forth, the kids would be swimming, we were in the sun. I would think all the kids would be worn out, yes.
And when they stayed at the lake house, where did the kids sleep?
And when we built the house, we built a bunk room, and there were 4 bunk beds on one side of the room and 4 bunk beds on the other. And they usually slept up in the bunk room. Thought that was cool to be able to sleep up there.
Did you ever see anything that caused you any concerns while there at the lake house that Mr. Robbins was acting in any way that was inappropriate
No,
with Arabella?
absolutely not.
At one point there was a CPS investigation in 2020. Did you know about that back then?
Yes, they contacted me.
CPS contacted you?
Yes,
Did they come out to your house?
no, it was a phone conversation.
And what kind of questions were they asking you?
What kind of parent Jordan was, did I feel, that she, was being neglected, questions like that. And I answered everything, truthfully, and
Okay.
she was good.
Okay. After that CPS investigation was concluded, did Arabella go back on her normal visitation schedule with Jordan as far as you knew?
Yes, yes,
And she was back out at the lake house as normal,
yes,
and everything seemed okay?
yes.
Were there any concerns at that time about Mr. Robbins and his parenting skills towards Arabella from you or from the family after the CPS investigation?
No,
Did you keep an eye out on the kids?
yes,
So you know at some point things changed and that there were some allegations that led to this case. What was your response to hearing those allegations? How did you feel
just
about that?
disbelief. Just, yeah, I couldn't believe it.
And why was that?
Because Jordan is, I don't know, he's a good father, he's, you know, it's just, we're such a close family, I just, you know, we raised 3 boys that, you know, are just the best sons, I just can't even imagine why.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
State.
Thank you, Judge. Hi, Ms. Robbins. My name is Raymond. I'm one of the prosecutors that work for the state. So a few questions. You have to make a choice today to testify in this trial, correct?
Yes,
And this choice, of course, was voluntary.
yes,
Objection, Your Honor. That's the mischaracterization. She was subpoenaed.
Okay, well, Bruton?
All right, the ruling, re-ask your question.
So why are you here today? Is it because you were subpoenaed to be here or because you volunteered?
I mean, I would want to be here.
So if you had not been subpoenaed, you still would have come. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Were you coming here today? Was that a difficult choice to make?
No,
Why not?
because I would want to be here for my son,
Because you love your son,
yes,
and of course, as a mom, your job is to protect your son when you can, right?
yes.
Have you talked to Arabella about any of these allegations?
And she's been ripped out of our lives. We haven't seen her in 2.5 years. She was a straight A student, happy-go-lucky little girl.
Smart little girl too.
So she was ripped out of our lives.
And so you of course haven't heard her son, right?
No, we haven't.
So I think it's a little unfair to hold a position without hearing the other side, right?
No,
Objection, Your Honor. It's an improper question.
Sustained.
I know my son's character.
Okay. But you also, you know your granddaughter as well, right?
She's been taught to lie.
And is she the only one person that you're suggesting that she's lying?
I'm sorry.
Are you suggesting, are you saying, are you telling the jury that your belief is that she's lying?
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Without-
I have 3 other grandchildren who
Okay,
can
but wait,
cooperate that.
well, wait a second, but
Okay.
I thought you said you have not talked to her,
I haven't,
so you don't know what she's saying, right?
correct.
So.
But I know the
Hang on,
allegations.
hang on,
Okay.
So you're getting the information from other people, right?
Yes,
Not from Arabella directly.
yes,
So it's fair to say that's the first hear from Arabella, right?
do I get that chance?
Are you saying, are you suggesting that, are you saying that if you had the chance to listen to Arabella, you would reconsider your position?
No,
No further questions, please.
Defense.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Robbins, you love Arabella.
yes, I do. very
You miss her?
much. I miss her.
Would you have had contact with her for the last 2.5 years if you weren't prohibited by the conditions of bond in this case?
Yes,
If you had any indication at all that Mr. Robbins had committed these offenses, would you get up there and lie for him?
no,
What would you do if you thought that one of your sons had done such a horrible thing?
I would have gone to the authorities.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
State.
Well, you said that you were in disbelief when you first heard about this.
Yes,
And I thought you said that. So you would say you would report your son to the authorities,
yes,
and this would be if you physically see the abuse, right?
yes,
If you physically see it,
yes, yes,
because that is actually mandatory, right?
yes, yes, yes.
No other question.
Any further questions?
Very good. And I think we're not to split hairs, but if you believe that anyone in your family was molesting a child, would you report them to authorities,
Absolutely. Yes.
including Jordan?
Including my son, yes.
Okay, thank you. I pass the witness.
No.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
And it's meant she's excused, John.
Depends on the state.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You're only allowed to discuss your testimony with attorneys for the state or the defense. You may step down. Defense, call your next witness.
It's called Josefina Overgone.
All right, if you'll raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Josefina Obregón.
Defense.
Ms. Overgone, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
So I was gonna start off, have you ever testified in court before?
Never.
Okay. Is it a little nerve wracking?
Yes, sir, it is.
I just want you to introduce yourself to the jury. Tell them who you are, how old you are.
I am 41 years old. My name is Josefina Obregón, like I said. I am Army vet. I am now a registered nurse in the Army. I did a lot of clerical things, deployed twice to Iraq.
Okay.
Let me
so
get out.
I'm gonna ask you the questions. I know you're nervous. Let's kind of slow down. So we'll kind of step back a little bit. So you mentioned that you were in the military. What branch did you serve in?
I served in the Army.
The Army. And by the time you were finished with your service, what were you doing?
I was a drill sergeant up in Oklahoma.
A drill sergeant in the medical company
No, a drill sergeant in Oklahoma.
in Oklahoma?
Yes.
Okay, so what does that mean? What did you do?
I trained all the new recruits, just basic leadership.
Speak a little bit closer into that microphone.
I trained all the new recruits. When they came as civilians, you mold them, you train them into the Army values. You teach them how to be soldiers.
And was that a special position for you being a woman?
A special position for anybody in the military. Only top 10% of the military gets chosen to be a drill sergeant. And yes, being a female soldier, that is a really high, award, and getting chosen to do that. A lot of people volunteer, but I was chosen.
Okay, all right. So after you finished the military, what did you do?
I got out and took care of my son. He was only 1 year old. Went back to school. I always wanted to be an RN. So I went back to school little by little while he went to daycare, and got my degree.
Okay. How long have you known Mr. Jordan Robbins?
Since 2018.
Okay. And how did you meet him?
He showed up at my house with some friends of ours, actually a friend of my brother's, and that's how I met him.
Were you guys immediately an item? Were you start dating?
No, sir. No, I had no intentions of meeting anybody. We did not start even dating till maybe mid 2019. I mean, we talked here and there, but no, sir.
Okay. And so, and I hate to ask you, but what's the age difference between you and Jordan?
I believe it's 6 years.
And who's the older?
I'm older.
And you have a son. When you and Mr. Robbins start dating, did you meet his daughter?
Not right at the beginning. It was a gradual meeting. First, it was just kind of, she was in the background, just hi, who is that on the phone, daddy, and I didn't really meet her till about after the summer of 2018. And it was the same with my son. I didn't want my son just kind of knowing anybody. I wanted to take it nice and slow. And I met Arabella first before he met my son.
Okay, so it's fair to say you guys took your time to introduce the children to each other.
Yes, sir.
Okay. At some point, did it become serious?
Yes. September 2018, I feel like that's when we really got serious. We started dating. So we actually made it official, I guess I should say.
You start spending more time together.
Yes.
Did you start introducing the children?
Yes, they had already kind of talked on the phone a little bit. But yeah, they were coming around each other a little bit, just nice and slow. We didn't want to, bring them into these new families, new worlds right away. So we both agreed on that when we first met. His first thing was, my daughter is my world, and I'm not just gonna have anybody around her.
And you understood that.
I did.
So I know as time progressed, things became closer. Did you ever start spending the night at his place?
Yes, I did.
Did you ever spend the night at your place?
Yes, I did.
Would you bring your child with you when you stayed with him?
Yes, because I have my child most of the time.
And I'm sorry, your child's name?
Larry Jacob Cohn Jr.,
He goes by
LJ.
LJ. And so LJ and Arabella started getting to know one another.
Mhm.
They were close.
They were close.
And so you had a chance to see Mr. Robbins around Arabella. What kind of father was he?
He's a great dad. Just from the get-go, that's probably what attracted me to him. LJ's dad, was around too, and he's a great dad too, but being around somebody else that portrayed, qualities like that, that's what you want when you're dating somebody. They're gonna treat your child the right way.
You got standards, it sounds like.
Yes,
Were you strict with LJ?
I am a little strict with LJ, yes.
Do you feel that was Mr. Robbins strict with Arabella?
Not strict like I am strict, no.
So you knew the routine at some point. How often is Arabella coming over to the house when you first start kind of getting serious?
On his weekends, and we would always plan where I was off, and I would have LJ as well. We plan something around the kids. It was always around the kids. Never anything that we really wanted to do, but the kids always had something to do, outdoors especially.
And so, was it usual that you would spend the night over at Mr. Robbins' house, or did it go back and forth, or how did that work out?
We kind of just played it by ear. Arabella really liked going out to my house because we're out in the country, riding, side by sides, playing with the other kids. I have, nieces, nephews. But we went back and forth because we also like coming into the city.
Okay. So you, by the time this is going on, is Mr. Robbins in his new house, the house that he currently resides in?
No.
He first started dating when he was at the old house.
Yes.
Can you tell me, at the old house, did Arabella have a bedroom?
Yes, she did.
Can you describe the bedroom?
Yes, it was light green walls. It had a little giraffe on the side. Cute little twin bed, white bed with like a little girly spread on top, but I don't remember what was on it. It was just flowers.
Did she sleep in her bedroom?
No,
And why not?
she was scared,
Scared of what?
just being there by herself.
Was she forced to sleep in the bed with Mr. Robbins?
No, because when I started coming over, she really hated that I stayed over because I was gonna stay in the bed with Jordan. And she would start asking me way before I even left or started, she would say, "Are you staying the night?" And I would say, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, darn."
And so when you did stay the night, did she stay in the bed with you?
Yes.
Did she ever sleep in her own bedroom?
No.
And that's because she was scared to sleep in her own room.
Yes,
Was she ever scared to, as far as you could tell, sleeping in the bed with Mr. Jordan?
never.
Did you ever see anything, I'm still at the first house, okay? Did you ever see anything at the first house that made you feel uncomfortable, if there was anything inappropriate going on between Mr. Jordan and Arabella?
No, I wouldn't have even continued with anything if I saw anything from the beginning.
What about LJ? Where would LJ stay when you guys were at the old house?
LJ would stay on the couch.
He wasn't afraid to sleep by himself. Okay. We talk about kind of the bathing arrangements. How old was Arabella? About that when you were at the old house, you remember?
I think she was either 4 or 5. I think she was 5 at the time.
Did she bathe herself?
No,
Did she need help bathing?
yes, because her long pretty hair always, but I took care of that. When I came around, Jordan took care of cleaning up after dinner, doing everything, and I always bathed Arabella. I helped her with her hair, I brushed her hair. I did everything, and she hated it because I pulled it all the time, and she made sure she told me.
Okay. You mean when you're brushing it?
Yes, when I was brushing it, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And when you weren't there, who helped her bathe?
I guess her dad.
Did you ever see him bathing her?
Yes, I did.
Anything inappropriate that you ever observed in that?
No, because I was standing, I was there. There was nothing inappropriate about the way he bathed his daughter.
Did she ever complain about him bathing her?
Never.
Did she ever complain about having to go to the bed with you guys?
No.
Could you have prevented her from going to the bed with you guys?
He tried to put her in her bed before, but she just didn't. She'd cry, and his soft heart would just bring her right back.
At some point, Mr. Robbins buys his current house, right? About how old was Arabella at that time, do you remember?
So that was 2020. About 2 years later after that, so 7.
Do you remember how old she was, what grade she was in?
I don't remember, maybe 1st grade.
Okay. Did she have a bedroom at that house?
She did,
Were there plenty of beds in the house for everyone to sleep in?
yes.
Where did LJ stay at the new house when he was spending the night there?
She still stayed on the couch.
Were there times when Arabella slept out in the room with LJ?
Yes,
Was she still wanting to sleep in the master bedroom with you and Mr.
Yes.
Robbins when you were there?
yes, but Arabella didn't sleep with LJ at the house. She had her own mattress on the ground. Arabella only slept with LJ one time when we were at a higher resort.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
So
no,
let me back
no.
up to that time. The one you missed it. So you said she had her own mattress.
Mhm.
What do you mean?
We would pull her mattress from her bed and put it in the living room because she wanted to watch TV.
Oh. And would she sleep on the mattress in there
Mhm.
sometimes?
Yes, and then we'd pull it into the bedroom as well when she cried and she wanted to stay in bed with us.
Okay. Would she still, even though there's a mattress in the bedroom, would she still get in the bed with you guys?
Sometimes,
Okay. And did you mind that?
not really.
You were close to Arabella?
Yes, I love Arabella.
Can you help us, if you guys were sleeping in the bed together, how would you guys be, I guess, lined up?
Arabella in the middle.
What about did you ever see anything that indicate any kind of neglect on behalf of Mr. Robbins towards Arabella?
No,
Was she always fed?
yes,
She had plenty of food to eat?
yes. Well, if I was around, my culture revolves around food. That's the first thing I'm gonna ask that little girl when she walked in.
She always,
Same as my son,
but she always had plenty to eat when she was there.
plenty to eat.
Did she have plenty water to drink?
Yes, she always had a water bottle. Her mom always made it a point to send a water bottle with her, even though she had plenty at the house.
Okay. So that you never saw a time where you thought she was being neglected and or dehydrated?
No,
What about her being sick? Was she sick a lot?
she had allergy symptoms a lot.
So do you remember in 2020, when there were allegations made against Mr. Robbins?
Yes, because I was called by a CPS worker.
Okay. And do you know what the allegations were at that time against him?
I don't remember all of them, no.
Do you remember the substance of the allegation?
Yes, I believe that it was trying to regulate when Arabella did certain things or have Jordan put a breathalyzer in his car and, you know, just a lot of different things like that.
Do you remember there being court documents filed in the case regarding the custody arrangement?
I do, but it was a mutual thing. It never went to court or anything.
So after the CPS investigation was done, did it seem like it was closed, everyone's satisfaction, and everybody started coming back over to the house again?
Yeah, she never stopped coming over to the house.
How did that make you feel? Were you worried about her coming over to the house?
No, no, I was never worried about Arabella coming back to the house.
What was your relationship with Arabella's mom, Alex?
We had a great relationship. She would text me, ask me things about Arabella. She would call me. I mean, she even said on Halloween night, when we were saying bye, she approved of me being her bonus mom. And when I told her that I didn't plan on marrying Jordan, she didn't like my answer and just really never talked to me about anything like that again.
And why were you not planning on marrying Jordan?
Felt like it was too soon to even talk about stuff like that with me.
So was there a time when things changed?
I don't think so. She always texted me still. She talked to me. We talked about Arabella. The last conversation I had with her, she called me and asked me if Arabella had been lying to us a lot. And I said, no, she, little kid, that's it.
And what about, I guess, Alex's relationship with Mr. Robbins? Did you see that changing?
Not really, not at all. I mean, she was just being the same.
How is that? How would you describe it?
It was a good co-parenting relationship. And the reason I changed my co-parenting relationship is because I saw them and I wanted what they had for my son.
Okay. So as we get closer to 2022, did you see anything that changed that concerned you?
No,
You saw a decent relationship with Alex?
yes,
So, I'm assuming in 2022, you guys are spending more time together than you were at the beginning of the relationship.
yes. Arabella was crying when she had to go back home. He had to give her pep talks to go back home because her siblings were missing her.
Did she ever appear to be upset or scared coming to the house?
Never.
Did she wanted to stay at the house before she went back home?
Yes, she always wanted to stay with Jordan. She would try to call her mom and ask her to stay more or stay over the weekend or over on Monday.
So, do you remember a time when she became upset about Jordan's parenting before all this came up?
Just little things. I know she called me about Jordan not being strict enough with her, and she said that she liked my parenting style because I was a lot more strict than he was.
So tell me, how did you first hear about the allegations that bring us here today?
I was in Jordan's house when he got served
He was served with what?
with the allegations, but it was all civil at the beginning.
Meaning she had served him with something in family court?
Yes.
Okay. And you saw what the allegations were?
No, I didn't read them. I sat there and, you know, he was reading them and He just started bawling. I didn't think it was good at that point.
Um, Initially, what did it involve? Do you remember any of the specific allegations in the original documents? What you were talking about with them? Do you remember what was discussed? What kind of allegations were being made against him?
From the family
Yeah.
court, I don't even remember exactly.
But you knew that things were getting worse.
Yes,
And do you remember a time, were you around when a search warrant was executed on his house?
yes, I was there.
You were there.
I was there.
And what was going on at that time?
He had his court on Zoom when when the police showed up to do the search at his house.
And how did he respond to that?
He was, you know, they were taking all his electronics, so that's what he was worried about. He was just sitting there and he had asked them that he needed to be in court. And that's all he asked them for. Other than that, he let them go through his house, whatever they wanted to do.
And you saw them take a bunch of stuff out of the house?
Yes, sir, I did.
After that, have you had any contact with Arabella?
No,
And why is that?
because we weren't allowed to.
And just so I'm clear, so while you were at the new house, again, you never saw anything there that made you think that there was anything inappropriate going on between Mr. Jordan and Arabella?
No, sir.
If you had, what would you have done?
If I had ever, from the get-go, even had an inkling that he was doing anything to his daughter, first of all, I would have called the cops myself. You know, I hold myself to very high standards. I have integrity, ethics as a nurse. There's no way I wouldn't have kicked his ass myself and called the cops.
Okay.
And I definitely wouldn't be sitting here on this side.
Okay, okay, thank you. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
State.
Thank you. I'm Ms. Overgon.
Hello, sir.
My name is Danny. I'm one of the prosecutors. I'm just gonna ask you some follow-up questions and some of my own questions as well. All right.
Yes, sir.
So what I kind of want to talk about, I want to take a step back. You met the defendant you said in college.
No, sir.
You knew him. What year did you meet him? Actually meet?
2018.
2018. And then you said that you started dating mid 2019.
Yes.
And you also mentioned that he got his new house in 2020.
Yes.
And was that in September of 2020?
I don't remember exact time, but I know we were there Halloween of 2020.
And do you, right now, do you currently live at that same house?
At what house, sir?
At the house that, Mr. Robbins' house?
No.
I want to talk a little bit more about just the whole household dynamic. You mentioned that you were always there when Arbella was there, correct?
Correct.
And you have a son, as you mentioned, correct?
Correct.
And how old is he?
He's 14.
And in 2020 and 2022, he was 12 and he was 10 and 12, correct? And does he have a lot of friends?
Yes.
And is he playing sports?
Yes.
Is he involved in the community or being involved with extracurriculars?
No, just a lot of sports.
And does that require you to drive him everywhere?
Not at that time. I only had him in like little league stuff, so it wasn't as much as he's doing now.
Because you still have to drive him around
Correct.
different places. And
Yeah.
that require sometimes on the weekends as well.
Yes, sir.
And some of the weekends that maybe be with Mr. Robbins, right?
Yes, sir.
And that would mean that at those times, you wouldn't be there when him and Arbella were there.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you don't know what could have happened there, correct?
The cousins were always over when we weren't.
So I'd like to talk a little bit more, and how would the cousins get to the house?
They're dead.
And then when you would get back, they would just leave?
What do you mean when I got back?
Well, you would leave, take your son to any sporting events, and then they would, and the cousins would just come over, and then when
Her cousins,
her cousins,
her cousins would be there with his brother.
and then when you got back, they would leave.
No, and we all stayed together.
When you were all together, so it's your testimony from the jury, that you never left Mr. Robbins along with Arabella.
I never said that I didn't ever leave him.
So there are times that it was just him and Arabella in that house.
Yes, I assume so.
And, well,
Yes, sir.
and at that time, you don't know what happened in that house, do you?
No, sir.
So anything really could have happened, right?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk a little bit more just about, as you indicated, just what Mr. Robbins told you, what, as things went on. So as defense mentioned, he did tell you what was going on in the allegations, correct?
Yes, I was there.
And, you would agree with me that there are two sides to every story.
Correct.
And at this point, you never talked to Arabella about what happened, did you?
Never.
But so you never got Arabella's account of the story, right?
No,
And,
I wasn't allowed to talk to Arabella.
but you did text Alexandria immediately after, telling her she's going to hell, right?
No, I did not text her immediately after.
Text her shortly after, telling her she's going to hell for what she did, correct?
Not immediately, no.
After the arrest, you texted her, telling her she was going to hell, right?
Yes, I did because she posted on her social media something.
And again, at this point, you did not hear Arabella's side of the story.
I was not allowed to talk to Arabella. Nobody ever talked to me
So how do you know that what Mr. Robbins was telling you was true?
because I was there. Mr. Robbins never showed any symptoms. I mean, Arabella never showed anything. Anything that would ever make me think that he did anything to her. She's such a happy little girl every time.
And would you be surprised if someone came in prior and testified that that may be normal behavior?
No,
And would it surprise you that exactly everything you just exemplified, again, someone who's coming in and testified, that may be normal behavior?
that may be, but I know what I saw.
But again, there were times that you maybe were just not there.
Okay, but somebody else was there.
So I just want to take one step back.
Yes, sir.
At some points, you indicated, right,
Yes, sir.
it was just them two alone in the house.
Yes, sir.
Right. You also mentioned, with the old house that, you said that when you weren't there, he bathed her, correct?
I assume so. She had to take a bath.
And as she got older, you said that you would brush her hair and help her with all that. You also mentioned that when he was bathing her, you would be standing there, correct?
Yes, because he would bathe her really quick and she would get out and I would do her hair.
And was it normal for you to just watch him when she was
I
showering?
wasn't watching him. I was standing there either doing something, getting her stuff ready or coming in and out or whatever. I was just waiting to do her hair.
And then you also talked about the co-parenting relationship with Alexandria and Mr. Robbins, right? And you mentioned that was a relationship that you thought was very, like, it was cordial and you wanted to actually emulate that, right?
Yes.
So so Alexandria didn't seem mad at Mr. Robbins, did she?
No,
She didn't seem angry with him.
no,
And she didn't seem upset or disappointed with him.
yes, she did sometimes.
Sometimes, but she wasn't mad at him. Right?
Yes, she was mad at him at times, yes,
At times.
yes.
But again, they co-parented really well, as you indicated, right?
Yes.
And again, you want to emulate that. Just a few more questions, okay? You mentioned that you now have you have a good co-parenting relationship with LJ's biological dad, correct? And you also talked about your parenting styles too. If your son came home saying that his dad touched him, would you let your son go back with him?
No.
So you would agree with me that as a mother, you want to protect your child.
Yes, but I want to talk to everybody involved, so I know the whole story, like you said.
Councilwoman, Judge.
Good, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Overgun, you know that in 2020, right, was Mr. Robbins reported to CPS for neglect? And who did that?
Alex,
And you know that there was a lawsuit filed to change the parent-child relationship at that time, right?
yes,
You also know that in 2022, a law enforcement and CPS conducted an investigation against Mr. Robbins while we're here today, right?
yes,
And you also know that Alex was involved in that as well, right?
yes.
Okay. I did want to ask you, since the prosecutor brought it up, at the new house, were you still bathing at Arabella? Did she need help being bathed at the new house?
Yes,
And was that all the way through the end of the relationship when all this came up?
no, sometimes we were trying to get her in, make her more independent. So it wasn't always that she was being bathed. She'd just call me in there when she needed help with her hair at the end.
Okay,
That's it.
okay. Was Mr. Robbins, did you ever see him like trying to bathe her? Was he going in there bathing her?
No, he was always doing the cleanup. It was always me trying to get the kids in and out of the shower because they took forever.
Did he seem like he wanted to watch the kids?
No,
Did he seem like he wanted to watch Arabella?
no.
One of the things I didn't ask you earlier, and it's part of the timeline of this. Do you remember right before these allegations come out, you guys going to the hotel?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Jordan wanted to give the kids something fun to do because it was cold.
Mhm.
So he found out where there was an indoor pool where we could take the kids swimming. So he found the Hyatt Resort had an indoor heated pool. So we, on a whim, we kind of just loaded the kids up and we went to the Hyatt Resort
Okay.
and we
There
let
are
them
things for the
swim.
kids to do there?
Yes.
What did they do?
They roasted marshmallows, they got in the pool, they ran around, there's like a lazy river outside, of course, they didn't go on that one, there was no water in that one, but they played around, there's this big green field where they were being silly with each other, we just walked around all over, it's a cool little place, so
So,
s'mores,
okay. Did they went swimming?
yes,
Did Arabella want to go swimming?
yes, she loved the water,
Did she jump in without complaint?
yes.
Did she, did she like pack her own swimsuit?
No, we didn't have swimsuits, it was cold, so we ran to Target and found whatever we could find. I actually chose her bathing suit that day for her.
And did she help you pick it out?
She did, but she kind of fought me on it a little bit. There was a really pretty one, but there was one that was too small and the other one was way too big and it showed her booty a little bit. So I got her the smaller one and she kept complaining that it was a little tight, but I told her it would do for swimming and she got that one.
But she never complained about getting in the pool.
No,
Was the pool cold?
they said it was a little cold, but they were swimming.
They were having fun.
Yeah,
Did Mr. Robbins ever force her to get into the pool?
no,
Did he ever threaten her to get into the pool?
no,
You mentioned that in one of your answers to the prosecutor about, I guess, never being questioned by law enforcement. Were you ever interviewed by anyone from law enforcement about what happened or didn't happen inside Mr. Robbins' home?
never,
Were you ever questioned by CPS the second time?
never.
Did they come to your home to look around?
No,
Did they get a search warrant for your house?
no,
Take pictures of it?
no,
As far as you know, did they go to Mr. Robbins' house?
just that search warrant, yes,
But before that, did they try to talk to him? Do you know?
no,
Do you know if they talked to anyone from Mr. Robbins' side of the family?
They didn't talk to anybody, not that I'm aware
I pass the witness.
State.
Thank you. And so around, you talk a lot just about the Hyatt and just some of the things that happen there. You understand we're not here today to talk about pool, right?
of. Yes,
You understand we're not here today to talk about babysit, right?
yes,
You understand we're not here to talk about food.
yes,
Right? You understand we're not here to talk about fun and games, right?
yes,
You understand we're here to talk about some pretty serious things.
yes, sir, I am well aware.
And again, it's fair to say that there's information that you just don't have regarding this, right?
Yes, sir.
And even then, even knowing there's information you do not have, would you still come here and testify? You're still gonna come here and testify, not knowing information, and you're still gonna come and testify on behalf of Mr. Robbins?
Yes, my integrity and my ethics are
I'm gonna
intact.
object, I'm gonna object,
Yes,
I'm gonna object.
What's your legal objection?
Well, non-responsive.
That's overruled.
So, once again, you're still in a relationship with Mr.
yes, I
Robbins.
am.
And you're here because you care about him,
I care about Arabella. And I care about him, yes.
and you don't wanna see Mr. Robbins get in trouble, don't you, right?
I want to see Arabella. I want to see her happy.
And then, but right now, Mr. Robbins is on trial, so.
Right.
And still knowing that,
If I had any inkling of anything, I wouldn't be
you
here.
know, Jack, I haven't posed a question yet.
Okay.
Thank you. So you don't wanna see him get in trouble, and you do anything to protect them,
No,
right?
I would not do anything to protect him.
And you do, and again, not knowing information, still missing a lot of information, you are still gonna come here and testify, missing a fair amount of information.
I'm testifying to what I know.
Customers.
Any further questions?
Ms. Overgone, you were asked to come testify in court today,
Yes,
Right.
sir.
subpoenaed. Judge swore you in to tell the truth,
Yes,
Right.
sir.
and have you told the truth?
Yes, sir, I have.
Would you lie for anyone to protect someone who is accused of molesting a child?
I would never lie for anybody.
Would you lie for Mr. Robbins?
No.
I passed it to you, John.
Just real quick, I think you mentioned you're gonna tell the truth, you understand that Arbella came on the stand as well,
Yes,
and she took the same oath you did.
yes.
So witness.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state or the defense. All right, you may step down. Defense, call your next witness.
Yeah, just one moment.
Sure. All right, ladies, and just have a seat, counsel. Counsel, just have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a 5-minute break, and then I'll bring you back.
All right, for the jury,
Defense calls Jordan Robbins, Your Honor.
All right, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Jordan Luke Robbins.
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. I know it seems kind of silly, Mr. Robbins, can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure. Jordan Luke Robbins, originally from Lavernia, Texas, and live in Church, Texas now.
Okay, you grew up in Lavernia,
Yes, sir.
and you went to high school there?
Yes, sir.
How did you do in high school?
Did well. Mostly A's and B's, maybe a few C's in there.
Did you do any college?
Yes, sir. I graduated from Texas State University with a bachelor's in construction science management and a minor in business administration.
Okay. Tell us how you got there. How did you end up, did you work through school?
Yes, my college was a little bit, I took a few victory laps, if you will. I started off at Corpus Christi. From there, I went to Belen University, College Station, and then I finished off at Texas State. And I think it was probably a year or two when I was at Texas State that I started not doing too well. I was partying a little bit too much and made a decision to move back home. Whenever I moved back home, I got a job working at UPS.
Okay. And then you start taking things more serious then?
Yes, sir. Once I moved back home, I ended up with A's and B's and graduated 3.2.
And you were working at that time?
Yes, sir. I was working part-time, loading 53-foot trailers on the twilight sort at UPS, working from about 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. I later on, I got to my senior level at Texas State, I got into the engineering department, the plant engineering department at UPS, where I was essentially over the conveyor system and making sure it was running efficiently.
And were you working full time at that time?
I was working full time. At my senior level classes, I was it was a straight 40 hours at UPS working. Mostly because of my senior level classes, the choices were limited, so I was mostly on the PM side. So I was working at UPS from about 3 a.m. to about 11 a.m. and then going to school from about 12 to 9.
Okay, so you worked your way through school.
Yes, sir.
How do you know Alexandra? She's reading now. But when you met her, what was her name?
What was her name?
Yeah, what was her Alexandra?
Alexandra Hernandez.
Hernandez. And how did you know her?
I knew Alex through kind of a friend of a friend. As she testified, we both went to Lavernia. I believe she was 2 years younger than me, so we didn't really communicate too much throughout high school. But later on, we reconnected, as she said on Facebook. I made a post one day when I was taking my physics and calculus, my prerequisites at Northeast Lakeview. She had messaged me and we ended up chatting on Facebook Messenger, and that turned into texting and turned into dating.
About how old were you then?
I think I was probably around 24.
Okay. You remember what year that was?
I would say around 2011 to 2012.
Okay. And you guys started dating seriously?
Yes, after dating and actually going on physical dates. Yeah, I guess boyfriend, girlfriend.
How long were you boyfriend, girlfriend for?
I'd say about 1.5 years.
Okay. When you were dating Alexandra, was there a time she got into an accident?
Yes, sir. I have a friend, we always went down to the Valero Alamo Bowl. I was down there with friends. She was down there for a bachelorette party. We went downtown. She left downtown. I left downtown with a friend. It occurred to me in the morning when I was contacted by her mother. They could not find Alexandra and have not heard from Alexandra.
Okay.
I hadn't either.
And so you heard from mom that they couldn't find her.
Yes, sir.
And then what did you do?
A friend and I started kind of driving around as I was unsuccessful in getting in contact with her as well. We drove around the Sherrod-Cibolo area because I believe her mom had determined that she was in that area. And after kind of by the luck of the draw, we went by a towing company and I noticed her vehicle at that time with emergency flashers still on.
And then you determined that she was at the hospital?
My friend that was a little bit calmer than me at the time was able to contact law enforcement, and they notified him that she was in ICU at SAMC, or formerly known as BMC.
Okay. So we've heard from other witnesses before about she had to go to ICU for several days. She was in a coma.
Yes.
How long was she in a coma for?
I believe it was 2 to 3 days.
And she was in the hospital for how long?
I would say about 2 weeks.
At some point she regains her health?
Yes, sir. After she had got out, went to the inpatient rehab for ortho, another rehabilitation. She had then been discharged and went to live with her mother and stepfather in Lavernia.
So I know at some point you guys decide you're going to get married. I guess what happened before that?
So after she had got out, I started going and visiting her at her house. Emotions were kind of all over the place with the accident, other factors as well. And she had, obviously since the accident, and she almost lost her life, there were things that Alex wanted, you know, a stronger commitment, rightfully so. And so we started to take things more serious. Obviously we were engaged, in sexual activity. And a few months, later, she called me whenever I was getting ready to go into my capstone, senior level class, and called me and let me know that she had tested, positive for pregnancy.
And were you guys happy about that?
Yes, sir.
And did you decide to get married after that?
We did. We ended up getting married in February at the golf course in Floresville, Texas.
After you were married, about how much longer after that? Was that,
February and then to June, so March, April, May, about 4 months. Arabella was born June 25th.
And how did the couple respond to parenthood?
We were young. We were learning together before, while Alexandra was pregnant. We had went to classes together, try to learn, read the books together, and I don't think anything's actually, and what's in writing prepares you for parenthood, but we did our best to prepare. And we brought Arabella into this world on June 25th. We went in to her OBGYN for a regular checkup, Dr. Serrano, and let us know that she was low on amniotic fluid, and so she needed to be induced. And at that point, we went to Central Baptist.
I know at some point, and kind of skip ahead, I know that you guys, things weren't working out. What was happening with the marriage that led to the divorce?
I don't think there was anything, not one single thing to point out. I think it was probably multiple. Our love for one another, I believe, kind of grew distant. The intimacy, there was no intimacy between the two of us. It almost essentially became a roommate. Like we were, obviously living together and parenting for Arabella to the best of our ability. But the marriage was failing, not in any type of ugly, disorderly way, but the love for one another was non-existent. And at that point, I made the decision not to be stuck in a marriage that we were going to both be unhappy. It wasn't fair to her. It wasn't fair to myself.
Okay.
And so we decided to move forward with the divorce.
Was the divorce amicable? Did you guys agree to everything?
Yes, sir.
So what year was that?
That would have been 2017 or 2016. 2016.
Did you notice any changes? I guess once you guys split up, what was the relationship between you and Alex as far as how you were treating Arabella and how you were co-parenting?
It was well at that point. She had quickly moved on to another marriage. Brody, that I believe that name was brought up earlier. I knew Brody since he was from Livonia as well. So he was introduced to myself. He was around Arabella, but the three of us, me, Brody, Alex, and then with the fourth being Arabella, we all co-parented well. I even remember going out to dinner for the four of us. Maybe a little awkward at the beginning, but over time, we were all there for the sole purpose of being parents to Arabella.
Okay. What about as time progresses, we're getting closer to 2020. Were you getting any kind of input from Alexandra that she didn't think you were doing a good job?
I would say some small identifiers with a lot of the times when Arabella would return home on Sunday. It seemed to be that she was interrogated by her mother. I would get phone calls asking about little things here and there, but it was very detail oriented. And so you could tell that Alexandra was kind of drilling Arabella on what it was that she did from the time that she left her house into the time that she returned. I think the control side of things tend to grow.
And so you would you hear about that? I mean, how did you?
I would get long, lengthy text messages. Even from whenever I would pick up Arabella and say she had a cold, I was left with very detailed instructions on that she needed to take her medication at this time, followed by a drink of water, followed by the humidifier, almost to a sense that I was incompetent to raise my daughter.
I'm gonna put ask you about these. So took lots of pictures of Arabella, I guess, when she was growing up.
Yes, sir.
I'm just gonna have you what's been marked as defendants exhibit 1 through 18. These have been previously shown to the district attorney's office along with exhibit 19. Can you just thumb through those real quickly?
Sure.
So as to defendants 1 through 18, do they all fairly and accurately depict what you see on the pictures?
Yes, sir.
They look like they're truthful and honest.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Defense would move to submit defense exhibits 1 through 18, Your Honor.
Judge, the state has no objections.
Right, defense exhibits numbers 1 through 18 are admitted without objection.
Thank you, Judge. This is the one that you did. Yeah, this is 19. No, yeah, absolutely right now. I'm also going to show you what's been labeled as defense exhibit 19. Have you seen this USB before?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with its contents?
Yes, sir.
There's a video on the USB. Is that video a true and accurate depiction of what it portrays?
Yes, sir.
Defense would move to admit defense exhibit number 19, Your Honor.
No objections with state exhibit, defense exhibit 19 though.
Right, defense exhibit number 19 is admitted without objection.
So as you, I guess things start to change a little bit. It seems like it sounded like you were saying she's watching you more. She's got more instructions for you. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you feel, was she being more controlling? Is that what you say?
Yes, just to the fact of wanting that control of whenever she was within my care, made it seem that she wasn't safe, getting fed, getting clothed properly, which is all false allegations against me.
When you had, so tell me about your custody arrangement with Arabella. How often did you have her?
It was standard, so first, third, and fifth weekend of the month.
And you try to exercise your visitation whenever?
Yes, sir. Just like pretty much standard visitations, it also had a small glimpse of Thursdays. But on those Thursdays, it was mostly a time period from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. But Alex wanted to put Arabella to bed at 7 p.m. Along with her other children. Arabella was also required to go to sleep that early. So those Thursdays, I mostly did not get that right to me.
And you tried to work with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we've talked about 2 houses, right? Tell us about the first house that you were in. You were originally living there with Alexandra?
We were. That was the house that we moved into as soon as we were married. So that would have been right. We got married in February, but I believe the lease was actually executed on January of that year.
Okay. And that's where Arabella was born?
Yes.
I guess after you guys are divorced and you're exercising your visitation, is that primarily where Arabella was coming to spend the nights?
Yes, at that point, yes.
Okay. And about what age is she then?
She was around 2.5.
Okay. What kind of child was she at 2.5?
Arabella was always been a go-lucky little girl. She always liked playing outside, anything and getting outside and doing anything. She loved going to the lake, as we talked about, even though at that time the lake house wasn't built, but she's always been a water baby though.
Okay. Was there a time when your parents moved into the house with you?
Yes, sir.
And how long was that?
That was roughly about 2 years. Their lake house took a little longer than normal to build, so they ended up getting stuck there a little longer than anticipated.
Okay. And so they would have been living there when Arabella came for her visitation?
Yes, sir.
About how old was she when they moved out?
Arabella would have been around 4 to 4.5.
So after they move out, you're living there alone,
Yes, yes,
and Arabella's coming over to stay with you during your periods of visitation. Okay. Everything normal? It seemed like everything was happy
yes.
as far as you and Arabella were
Mhm.
concerned. I know you've heard some things in court, and so I just want to ask you directly. Okay. Did you ever do anything inappropriate with your daughter at the old house?
No, sir.
Did you ever touch her with your penis?
No, sir.
Did you ever, force your body onto her in any way?
No, sir.
Tell me how you would show affection to Arabella.
I hugged her, like any father would. Give her goodnight kisses, like any father would. I think she showed the same affection back to me as well.
Was it a normal father-daughter relationship?
Yes, sir.
And you loved her.
Of course, I still do.
Even after all these things that have been said about you by both her and Alexandra, you still feel the same way?
Absolutely. I'm here to protect my innocence, but more importantly, to protect her innocence as well.
Tell me about I guess, at the old house, what were the sleeping arrangements there?
The old house. At the beginning, Arabella did sleep in her room. I do briefly recall her sleeping in there for the little bit. That came a time when my parents had moved in. I want to say we used one room for storage, and so it was almost like it was forced for her not to have her own bedroom at that point. And so it became a little bit of something that whenever she was able to come into my bedroom, and it was something that we were both comfortable with. We watched movies, we did shadow puppets on the wall. We did our little Snapchat silly faces. We did just anything that any normal father and daughter would do.
Yeah, may I have permission to publish some of the exhibits that have been admitted?
Yes.
While we do that, so when your parents moved out, what was going on? Why were they there?
They were building their lake house in Seguin.
Okay. I'm just gonna show you a few pictures and you can tell me what they are. This is defense exhibit 1. I guess this would have been after the lake house was completed.
Based on the age of Arabella right there was times that we went out to the lake house before the actual house was built because the property was there. But that's definitely at the lake house on my oldest brother's boat.
Okay. And about how old is she there?
I would say about 3 years old.
And who's that other person in the picture?
That's myself.
And this is defense exhibit 2. What's this?
That's Arabella and I doing the silly faces that she referred to through Snapchat, through Snapchat filters.
And you say silly feet, that's what you called it?
Yeah, silly faces. That's what I think she's actually the one that came up with the name silly faces, and that's what we referred to it ever since.
And this one, what's that?
That's us at the lake house. All right, just go
Okay.
kiss.
And can you tell us about this one? This is about the same age?
Yes, that's after one of her dance recitals. I don't remember if that was a fall or spring. I'm gonna guess spring due to the color of her dress there, but I know that was taken after one of her dance recitals, which always enjoyed dance.
Were you one of those fathers who was participating in the activities of their children?
Absolutely, everything. My job, I put myself in position to be able to be at these activities for first day of kindergarten, parent orientation, meet the teacher, every single field trip, I was there.
I'm gonna show you a couple more. What is this one?
That's at the old house. That would have been, I believe, around 2019. And I do believe that was more or less a picture of us saying goodbye to that house and moving on.
Okay, I may have gotten mixed up. And so what is this one?
Yes, so that was the first day that I got the keys from I guess realtor, and us moving in to the new house together.
Okay, so the first one was you moving out of the old house and the next was moving in. But
Yes.
Arabella was with you that day.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
It's a big milestone for myself.
okay. So I want to just back up just a little bit. What is Defense Exhibit 8?
Yes, so that's her room at the old house in Universal City.
Okay. And at the old house in Universal City, were there plenty of beds and places to sleep?
Yes, sir.
Plenty of food to eat?
Yes, sir.
Arabella ever lacked for anything?
No, sir.
So at the new house, did Arabella have her own bedroom?
She did.
What is Defense Exhibit 11? Oops.
Yeah, yes, that's her room with the help of my mother for decorations. But yes, that was her new bed that I purchased on Living Spaces.
Okay. So there's been a lot of talk, or there was earlier, about the lake house and about some allegations that, you know, she was being neglected there, that they weren't being monitored. There was, you know, the life vests weren't on times. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures and just you kind of explain to the jury what they are. What is this and about how old's Arabella?
I would say maybe around 5 there. That's Arabella with her cousin / best friend Hadley.
Okay.
That's me, and then that's my nephew Jet.
You're right here?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
My nephew Jet, and then my other my best friend Ben, his son, and that orange thing there in the water's a rubber docking that a lot of the kids.
Was the house already built?
At that point, yes, sir.
What is this one?
That's Arabella and Hadley jumping off the dock, which was, I can't even count how many times that they did that on every weekend during the summer that we were out there. It was, as I referred to earlier, Arabella was a water bug, first one in, last one out.
Did she, was she comfortable in the water?
Yes, she had went to swimming classes when she was 4 or 5. Going underwater was always a little bit different or scary for her. So she wasn't as strong as a swimmer as maybe her cousins, but she was still a good swimmer.
Okay. Tell us about what age is she here?
With being at the old house, probably I would say 4 years old there.
Okay. And she liked to snack on fruit?
Yeah, snack, and I think there's a puzzle in the background as well that maybe we were working on together. But yeah.
Okay. And what is this?
That's my mom and dad's lake house.
Okay. So that's where you guys would stay when you had those trips?
Yes,
the
sir.
weekend trips? And this?
That's the upstairs, the bunk beds that my mother referred to earlier.
Okay. Would Arabella, when you guys stayed at the guest house, at the lake house, I'm sorry, would she stay in the bunks?
Mostly. There were still times where Arabella slept with me at the lake house, but as she got older, and she wanted to stay with her cousins that were always up there, she mostly stayed upstairs. But there was a few times when she still slept with me.
And this is going on kind of what time span we're talking about? When was the lake house finished? Do you remember?
The end of 2019.
Okay. And did you start getting complaints from Alex about the trips to the lake house?
A little bit. I don't know what the intent was behind it. I don't know if it was jealousy due to the fact that Arabella always had such a great time at the lake house, but I do remember a few instances where Alex would complain about one thing or the other.
Do you remember in 2020 being the subject of a CPS investigation?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you know how those allegations were brought against you?
Yes, sir, at that time, yeah.
How?
Um,
Who brought the allegations against you?
well, Alex brought the allegations.
Were you surprised?
I was,
Did you see it coming?
no,
And what were the allegations against you at that time?
at that point, it was on the degree of neglect. Always coming home hungry, sick, tired.
And you were surprised to hear about those allegations?
Yes, sir.
Were any of those allegations true?
No, sir.
Did you, at the same time, did you also get served with family law papers trying to change your custody with Arabella?
Yes, sir.
And who, I guess who sued?
I got served from her, and her attorney at that time was, her attorney's name was Matt Sosi.
Okay. And, what did you do in response to that?
I never obviously was in any type of position like that. I want to say maybe I reached out to maybe family on what exactly needed to be done to protect my own rights, and ended up hiring a local attorney here in San Antonio.
Okay. Do you remember being asked to do an interview with CPS?
Yes, sir.
And did you voluntarily do that?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the disposition of the CPS case? What happened to it?
Yeah, the case was closed. I remember the lady coming in to, at that point, I just, at the same time of the false allegations with CPS, they came in to my house and I sat down with the lady, did the interview. I think later on she, the CPS detective, if that's the right terminology, reached out to Josefina and my mom, and determined that there was nothing there. They closed the case.
So the CPS investigator at that time reached out to other family members to see if there was.
Yes, sir.
To get the whole story?
That's correct.
After that was closed up, what happened with the family law case?
We ended up going back and forth there for a little bit. I think my attorneys were wanting to go fairly aggressive. I probably let my feelings get in the way and kind of let my kindness be taken for weakness. I ended up not really pursuing anything. I think Alexandra testified to it. I went over to her and her husband Jason's house and sat there, try to understand where exactly all this was coming from. Made it known that I love that little girl just as much as she did. And at that point, we agreed to whatever her terms, I guess. I agreed to her terms, and a non-suit was filed.
You agreed to her terms just between the two of you.
Correct.
Was she, prior to that, was she trying to, was one of her demands in the family lawsuit that you, I guess, what were her demands? What was she asking for?
At that point, it was that I had to record, that was during the peak of COVID, all the unknowns. Alex had asked that I was going to be required to record her temperature every 4 hours and report that. That I needed to install a breathalyzer in my vehicle, even though I've never been convicted of any type of DWI or anything to that nature. And the final thing was I was to be prohibited from taking Arabella to the lake house.
Oh, you're going to be prohibited to take her to the lake house?
Yes, sir. Those three things were in there.
Oh, so she was trying to stop Arabella from going to the lake house.
She was trying to create her own walls at that point. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so then you guys work things out, sounds like. Do you have any idea why she was wanting you to put an toxilizer or a breath test machine in your car?
I don't. I have speculations to why. From her accident that involved that. I don't know if it was something that I needed to have some type of repercussions of myself.
But did you have a drinking problem?
No, sir.
Did you drink and drive?
No, sir.
Okay, so moving on, so you guys somehow settled all that after CPS closed out that case. And Arabella started coming back.
She never quit coming.
Never quit, so your visitation was never paused at all?
That's right.
Okay. And so she was still coming on her normal visits. Did she appear to be happy when she came to the house?
Absolutely.
Did you ever have to force her to come?
No.
Did you guys talk when she wasn't there?
Who,
By phone
Alexandra?
or by text or whatever?
Alex and I?
Oh, I'm sorry, Arabella.
We did. There was times with that we would FaceTime one another. You know, things that maybe she wanted to show me that was new, that she would FaceTime me, and vice versa. Whenever she was within my care, mostly on Saturday evenings, we would FaceTime Alex and Jason and Adelie and Asher as well.
As we're getting closer to, I guess the allegations that come led to this case.
Yes, sir.
Did you have any idea that this was brewing in the background?
I had no clue.
Have there been any complaints about you?
No.
As far as you know, had Arabella ever complained about anything you'd done while you were over there? So I know there was a time when Arabella got sick with COVID.
Mhm.
How did Alexandra respond to that?
It was around the Christmas time. I think that might have been the Omicron variant, I believe, of COVID at that point. So the symptoms were very mild. But I think pretty much the whole family had tested positive. I knew that I believe it was myself that tested positive, and I was around Arabella, so I let Alex. I try to be cognizant of the idea that, hey, Arabella's been exposed. I don't want her coming home to your house and exposing the whole family. And so I took her. I think she actually set up the appointment with Dr. Stafford. I took her to Dr. Stafford. So for whatever reason, Alexandra was driving out of the parking lot that morning. We went and stayed in the car. They came and swabbed Arabella from the window, went back, and Arabella, it came back with the positive reading for COVID.
Had she already been vaccinated at that point?
I believe so.
And I know that from what I think I heard it before, did Arabella then, where did you guys go after, I guess, she tested positive?
Yeah, we went back to my house. After, I don't think we went directly to the lake house. I think we might have stayed maybe a night at my house, and the following day, I don't remember what actually day it was, but it was still it was at the end of the year, beginning of the year, so her school break was still going on. So obviously she wasn't in school, and neither were my nieces and nephews. So we went back out to Seguin and just kind of hung out and chilled.
And that goes, the whole family was out there?
Majority of the family.
How did Alexandra respond to that?
I remember one thing in particular was with kind of going back to I bought that house in the neighborhood of 2020. A year later, she moved in right down the street from me. So her and her family were at her house, and they came around. They walked to my house to come tell Arabella hi, waved to her through the window.
And stuff to say, and they knew she had COVID at the time?
They did. Yep. So they just wanted to come and wave hi. And whenever they got there and Alex realized that Arabella was not there, she kind of blew the gasket. And I remember looking at my home security footage and seeing it was her mom and stepfather, and everybody was out there to tell Arabella hi. Due to the fact that I did not kind of obey her laws or her orders, she was upset that Arabella was at the lake house.
So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things you heard about the new house, okay?
Sure.
First of all, did you ever inappropriately touch Arabella in any way?
No, sir.
There were lots of, I guess, stories given about, number one, you showering her. Did you shower her at the new house?
At the new house, if I could explain.
Yeah.
Around 4 or 5, I would say that I was still assisting with Arabella's showering. By the time she was 5, she was taking a shower, and Arabella still did not wash. She had long curly hair, and she did not thoroughly wash her hair properly. And so mostly I would turn on the water, and Arabella would go in there, do her thing. She always stayed in the shower for very long as a time, kind of going back to her love and water. But I would walk in there, and I would assist with washing Arabella's hair. And at that point, Arabella would finish up, put on her pajamas. I would help with Arabella's hair. I would mostly spray like a detangler into her hair. She had her toothbrush and her mouthwash. At that point, it was mostly time for bed.
You heard the allegations about washing her on her vagina. At that age, were you ever doing that?
At 7 years old, no, sir.
Prior to that, at 6 years old, did you?
No.
When
I
did
think
you
it was.
start?
I think I said earlier, around 4 or 5 is when I quit assisting with washing Arabella's vagina area.
Okay. So there was also this motion that was made about the piano fingers. Did that mean anything to you?
No, sir.
Did you ever touch her in any way like that?
No, sir.
You also heard her testify in court about the bed. So the sleeping arrangements, I understand, we've heard before. You have plenty of beds in the house.
Yes, sir.
Did you force her to sleep in your bed?
Yes, sir.
How did she end up in your bed?
It was I guess I gave her that decision. Going back to what I said about the old house, that's where it started. Looking back, I guess it was the wrong decision. But knowing that I wasn't doing anything to hurt her, I continued to allow it. We would have conversations of, hey, when you're this age, it's time, and she would joke, no, and it was probably a decision that I needed to make early on in her childhood, but I never saw no harm in doing so.
Everything was innocent as far as sleeping arrangement.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever try to have her sleep in her room?
I did. And it mostly did not work out. We started trying, with LJ coming over and her kind of sleeping in the living room. We started making strides to get there. I probably need to be a little bit tougher on doing it, but once I saw the little girl cry and whatnot, she kind of tugged on my heartstrings, and I love it.
There was descriptions about you hugging her to where it hurt, and putting your triangle, which we know now is the penis, on her circle or on her square. Did that ever happen?
No, sir.
She also said that you would have her come sit on your lap. Did that ever happen?
No, I mean, I think there was probably pictures of us at times, where Christmas, Thanksgiving, something where Arabella would come and sit on the leg of my lap and take pictures, but nothing to where I would forcefully grab my daughter and put her on my hips or hip area and thrust as what was testified.
Okay. So nothing inappropriate?
No, sir.
Did she ever just sit on your lap like a daughter would sit on dad's lap?
Sure.
Did she ever complain about any of that?
No, sir.
Let me ask you, did you know that there was a criminal investigation brewing prior to the search warrant being executed on your home?
I don't believe so.
Let me put it this way. Were you ever contacted by law enforcement about the investigation that leads up to this case?
No, none whatsoever.
Were you ever, did they ever come to your home request an interview with you?
No, sir.
Did they ever come to you to get your side of the story?
No, sir.
As far as you know, did they talk to anyone on your side of the family?
No, sir. This is the first day that I've ever my voice has got to be heard.
I know, tell me about the day, the kind of the sequence of events, because I'm still a little unclear about it. She had filed a motion again to modify your custody during that time, February 2022.
Mhm.
Temporary orders.
Right.
What did you do in response to the temporary orders?
The temporary orders, I remember coming home, it was Super Bowl Sunday. I think it was February 13th, and I had a little sign on my door, and knowing that I'd been served, now this is the second time, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, what the hell is going on now? So I got those, and that's when I read with Josefina the seriousness of the allegations that Alexandra was making against me. I called the same lawyer that I had previously retained back in the 2020 neglect case. Yeah, I hired them to represent me.
When you saw the contents
Mhm.
of the temporary orders, the allegations against you, how did you respond?
Sad, mad, emotional.
So there a time came when there was going to be a hearing for the
Mhm.
temporary orders.
Yes, sir.
And so tell me about that day.
It was via Zoom, since that was still towards, I believe, the tail end of COVID. And about 8:50 a.m. with my mom, my dad, and Josefina there at my house, received a knock on my door from the Schertz Police Department with the search warrant handed to me by Officer or Detective Hillary Murphy.
Okay. So were you already on the Zoom?
I believe I had my corporate provided laptop on my table opened, and since we were using Zoom as well, UPS had adopted that system for us to conduct business meetings and such. And so I did have my laptop open already with the Zoom waiting to be let into the courtroom.
Okay. And it's fair to say that you never had an opportunity to have that hearing.
No, the hearing was heard still. After they took all my electronics, Josefina downloaded Zoom on her cell phone, and I was able to use her cell phone since the police took mine.
Okay. Did you talk to the police when they came to your house?
Yes.
And what did they take from your home?
There's a list of it somewhere, but it was my corporate provided cell phone and laptop, my Apple Watch, my printer, my a CD that I received from UPS whenever I got into management there. I think it was a TED Talk. One of my USBs that I used for business relations. They took one of Arabella's Polaroid cameras that I gotten her for her birthday one year. I want to say a few more things, but that's all I can remember off the top of my head.
Any video games they took?
Oh, yes, a PlayStation 5 and a Nintendo Switch.
Okay. And you never got any of those back?
Never.
They're still in possession of the
Yes, sir.
government?
Yes, sir.
So at the end of the temporary orders hearing, what happened?
Kelly Bernstein got up there and testified after, I know, 2 sessions with Arabella, determined that I was the culprit at this. And pretty much from her testimony, the judge sided on their favor and granted the temporary restraining order against me.
Have you seen Arabella since?
No, sir.
I have permission to publish a couple more documents, Jeff.
Right.
So this is Defense Exhibit 18. What is that?
It's a picture of Arabella and I. That would have been, I believe, one of the last pictures that we took together.
Okay.
She could have possibly been sitting on my lap in that picture.
When do you think that picture was taken?
In January of 2022.
What was going on then? Do you remember?
No.
Your Honor, we have a video we're gonna publish.
Right, to have parties approach.
We're gonna play a video. Okay, you've seen this before. When was this taken?
I think we determined, I'm pretty sure it was January 22nd of 2022, one of the last weekends I would have had Arabella.
When was the last time she was with you? What weekend was that?
That was February 6th, the weekend that we went to the hotel,
Okay, and this would have been January 20, 2 weeks before?
2 weeks before that. Yes, sir.
You think? Okay. And have some volume with it. You remember when that video was taken?
Sir.
Was that a common experience between the two of you guys?
Sure it was.
Jordan, was Arabella ever scared of you?
Sir.
Did you ever threaten her?
No, sir.
Did you ever sexually abuse that girl?
Absolutely not.
Want to pass the witness, Your Honor?
Dave?
Thank you, Judge. Okay, Mr. Robbins, let's talk about first, the divorce. I think there's a lot of facts here that are already into evidence because many witnesses have testified already, so I'm not really gonna focus on that part. So I'm gonna dive just straight to it, okay?
Yes, sir.
So the divorce, it happened when Arabella was about 2 years old.
2.5, yes, sir.
2.5, okay. And you agree, I think your testimony was that the divorce was amicable,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Mhm.
And for the next couple of years, the co-parenting was going well, right?
Yes, sir.
In fact, we heard testimony from Josephine that she admired the co-parenting relationship, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned in 2020 about the custody case. I'm sorry, not the custody case, the CPS case,
Mhm.
right? You stated that Alexandria was the one that made the report to CPS, correct?
I believe so, yes.
You believe so or you know so?
I was probably mistaken because it was Dr. Stafford, so.
Well, hang on, because on direct examination,
Mhm.
you stated that
Yes,
it
sir.
was Alexandra that
Yep,
did
I
it.
misspoke.
You misspoke, okay, and that's fine because we want to make sure we clear things on the record. This is a
Sure.
very important case, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, so everyone, make sure it's one at a time because the court reporter has to take down everything that everyone's saying. All right, state, you may continue.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, so it was the doctor, and you were aware that it was the doctor because of what Arabella had told her, right?
Um, I believe so.
You believe so? Okay, well, there was testimony here. You heard Dr. Stafford
Mhm.
testify, right? In
Mhm.
fact, Arabella drew a picture, right?
Mhm.
And you saw that picture, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that picture consisted of her being on the lake,
Mhm.
right?
That's correct.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the picture indicated adults being at the top of the house,
That's correct.
right? This was the lake house, right?
Mhm.
How far was the house to the actual dock?
About 75 to 100 feet.
Okay, because I believe your mother testified that it does take a while to get to the top of the house.
That is correct.
Okay, so it's pretty far away.
Mhm.
Okay. So we also mentioned about the 2020, that the details about Alexandra asking you to send she gave you detailed instructions about water and dehydration, right?
Mhm.
And how you mentioned that it was controlling, right?
Mhm.
That her asking for these instructions or giving you instructions about Arabella was her way of being controlling, right?
Yes.
Okay, but at the same time, you would agree it's all perception. Moms tend to be more concerned about their daughter or their children, right, than dads are.
Yes, I believe water is a necessity though, so I don't need to be told to give my daughter water through
Well,
text.
it's not just about the water, Mr. Robbins. I
Mhm.
think it's about being on the children, I think mom's concern are always gonna be their children, even if they're with their dad. You would agree with me, right?
Mhm.
Okay. You may not agree with the parenting, but everybody is different, right?
Sure.
Okay. And you agree with me that dads sometimes can be a little more relaxed.
I think so.
Now, regarding the modification, so you do understand that the CPS investigation was initiated and then came the modification, right?
Mhm.
And you already stated the CPS investigation was initiated by Dr. Stafford, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and then you went to go hired an attorney, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and then you stated that you agreed to ask to send for the temperature updates of Arabella?
No.
You didn't agree to that?
Mhm.
So how did the modification resolve?
It was a non-suit.
It was a non-suit, so you didn't agree to any of that stuff?
That's correct.
Okay, so really there was no basis for the alcohol, prohibiting her from going to the lake house or for any temperatures. No conditions, everything just went back to normal.
That's correct.
Perfect. So you would agree with me that it wasn't until 2020 when the CPS allegations came up that we started maybe seeing the signs of Arabella, right? We talked about PTSD was one, anxiety was another, correct? And there was issues, symptoms with her that were displaying around that time. Defense is talking about because there is a contested, there's a custody case going on, but in reality, you agree with me that from H2 all the way until 2020, there was no dispute or custody dispute, right? Everything was perfectly fine. In fact, you all co-parented without a problem, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to talk about the first house. You stated that your parents moved in at the beginning, right? While the lake house was being built?
Yes.
And then I think you stated, and correct me if I'm wrong, that right around when Arabella turned 4.5, that's when your parents moved out.
I believe so.
Okay. So that means that from the moment that you moved into your new house and the moment that your parents moved out, you and Arabella were by yourselves in that house when Josephine would not visit, right?
Arabella would have been there, well, yes, with me, but with my parents.
Well, yes or no? Just you and her
I'm just trying to put the math together. My parents, the lake house was 2019, so I believe 2014 to 19, Arabella would have been 5 years old.
Perfect. Okay. So she turned, she was about 5 years old, right?
5 years old.
And you heard testimony, right? That the first time that this happened, or she remembers, was when she was 5 years old. Right?
Yes, sir.
So your parents weren't even around in that old house by that time, right?
Maybe.
No. Yes or no?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know the exact dates of when my parents moved out of the house and whenever I moved out.
well, that's, I'm just going based on what you're saying. You testified earlier that that your parents moved out when she was 4.5 years old.
Mhm.
That's what you said on direct examination.
Okay.
So what I'm telling you is Arabella testified that this started when she was 5 years old.
Sure.
So that means your parents were out of the old house at that point, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So you heard testimony about, so you stated, or actually we've heard testimony from Arabella, right? She testified here today, and it's obviously a very difficult moment for her as well. Arabella has talked to, well, let me ask you this. Her taking the stand today, did she lie to the jury about what happened?
Yes.
She lied about the bathroom,
Yes.
she lied about the bed,
Yes.
and also she lied about the living room.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Arabella also, she spoke with Child Safe. Did she lie to Child Safe?
Yes, sir.
And she also lied to the same, the Center for Miracles evaluation, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And what did you agree with me though, that if she was lying, she could have also said something more, right?
Yes.
She could have said, oh, he put his genitals in my mouth, right?
Yes.
She could have said, he penetrated me with his penis.
Yes.
He ended up putting his mouth in my genitals, in my circle, right?
Yes.
But she didn't. And in fact, you would agree with me, there was a lot of things that she didn't remember, right?
Yes.
So was she lying about that too?
No.
No further questions, Judge.
Defense.
Mr. Saldana was asking you about, and the, I guess, the 2020 CPS, 2020 CPS investigation. And your testimony, I guess, when I asked you was, did Alexander do that? And your response was yes.
Yes.
You know that Alexandra is the one who gave all that information to Dr. Stafford.
Of course.
Right. And Dr. Stafford, being a doctor, had to report it to CS.
Correct.
Right. So you weren't trying to mislead this jury when you said that Alexandra reported this to CPS.
No.
I don't know if it was going, the line of question was intended to elicit, but dads care about their children too, right?
Yes, sir.
Dads protect their children also.
Of course.
You cared about Arabella, right?
Yes.
Did you do everything you could to protect her?
Can you repeat the question?
Did you do everything you could to protect her?
Yes, sir.
And there's also some confusion, I think, about the back into the 2020. Can you, was the modification in the family court, was that filed first before the CPS investigation started, or was it vice versa? Just based on what Mr. Saldana was asking, I'm getting a little confused.
Which one was first?
Yes.
I believe it was the CPS, or the modifications.
Yes, I'm asking which one came first.
The modifications came first.
The modification was filed first.
Yes, sir.
And then there was a CPS.
Then the CPS, yes, sir.
Okay, and then that was all resolved.
Correct.
And the same pattern we saw, as far as you know, it was Alexandra that reported the allegations in 2022 to Dr. Stafford,
Yes, sir.
who then reported it to CPS.
Yes.
And as far as the family court filings at that time, what was the order of that? Do you know?
Of the family court?
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
It all happened pretty immediately.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she hired, I know, attorney Brandon Long.
And you know how quickly she hired him?
I believe it was a day or two after the last day that I dropped off Arabella on Sunday, February 6th.
And how do you know that?
From looking at records now.
Financial records?
Yes.
You can see the payment to the attorney?
Yes, sir.
I'd pass the witness, Your Honor.
State.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Robbins, not that I'm saying that you're a horrible parent or not, I really don't know because I have not seen your parenting style, but you would agree with me that sometimes a parent sees things that another parent doesn't see, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I think I'm pointing this out because do you remember calling Dr. Stafford on July 23rd of 2020?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, and do you remember what that conversation consisted of?
I do. It was whenever, can I explain?
Absolutely.
It was whenever Alexandra had taken her in and Dr. Stafford had referred to Elena Corstesia from KN Counseling for friend play therapy, if I'm not mistaken. And at that point, I was with Arabella on the weekends and I never identified any type of, not identified, but I never saw any type of emotional distress, anxiety, anything to that nature to what Alexandra was reporting, and therefore I did not think that my daughter needed to go to therapy.
I see, so you never really noticed any of those symptoms?
No, sir, I did not.
I'm gonna show you a page from State's Exhibit 6. And this is the note from the doctor. The very bottom. And it says, father called because he was concerned, right? And then over here, what does that say?
No mood or developmental. Oh, he admits that maybe sometimes she looks sad.
Okay, so you would agree with me that actually Arabella did look sad sometimes, right?
Yes.
Okay. regarding the hearing, the temporary restraining order hearing. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure if I heard you correctly. Did you testify in that hearing?
On which hearing, sir?
The one where the judge granted the temporary restraining order?
Yes,
Okay, so the judge in that hearing heard evidence, right?
yes, she heard testimony, yes.
You were represented by an attorney, right?
Yes, sir.
And so was, I believe, was there an attorney for the child?
I believe that was Brandon Long, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, and I think a judge, after hearing evidence, this is where the counselor testified, Ms. Bernstein, right?
Mhm.
After hearing the evidence, the judge made the decision, right?
Yes,
This is
sir.
an independent, impartial judge making the decision, right?
Yes, sir.
The judge, you would agree with me, could have given you some access, right?
Sure.
Could have given you supervised access.
Yes, sir.
But what was the ruling of the judge?
The ruling of the judge was based on Kelly Bernstein's testimony to grant the temporary restraining order.
Well, and did you testify?
I did testify.
Did Alexander testify?
Yes.
Okay, so based on the evidence in the hearing, the judge made the ruling.
Yes. Yes. Nobody saw me with Arabella still, but yes.
Um. No further questions, Judge.
Thank you. Yes. Ms. Saldana, I was asking you about, I was going back to the, I think that's after the 2020 set of allegations. That Arabella was referred out to counseling, at K&M counseling. Do you know that, was she taken immediately into counseling or was there a delay in?
I believe there was a small delay.
Okay. And did you participated in the counseling? Did you go meet the counselor?
I want to say I talked to the counselor. I never actually got to participate in person.
Okay. You paid for the counseling or you helped pay for it?
Yes, sir. Arabella's always been covered under my medical insurance and dental.
And there was some discussion about Bernstein and about the family court hearing. That was a temporary orders hearing.
Yes, sir.
How soon after that were you arrested?
When was the temporary hearing? I could probably tell you.
It was a couple months after that.
I was arrested around the summer of, I believe it was June.
Okay. And so you went in and spoke to Ms. Bernstein also voluntarily?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you go in with your lawyer or alone?
I went in alone.
Okay. And you continued to help pay for her counseling as well through Ms. Bernstein?
Yes, sir. And at that first appointment, I also testified that I strongly believed that there was coaching involved from her mother.
Okay, that's what you told Ms. Bernstein?
I did, yes, sir.
And you understood the temporary orders. That hearing was just temporary. There was not a trial in that case, right?
Yes, sir.
There was not a full, trial where witnesses were called in and all of that. That was just to kind of handle the immediate concerns, right?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And you intended on fighting for custody of your daughter.
Absolutely.
And did the criminal charges kind of derail that?
Yes, they rode my whole life for 2.5 years.
And you've not been able to have any contact with Arabella since?
No, sir. Not even a phone call, FaceTime, nothing.
And I noticed when she first came in, you were visibly upset.
Yes, sir.
Was that the first time that you had seen her in 2.5 years?
Yes, sir, it was. Yes.
And how did that feel?
Heartbroken, still am. Like I have been for 2.5 years to live with this. And my voice not be heard for 2.5 years while I lay here and wait for this day to come.
Okay. You still love Arabella?
Yes, sir.
You still want to take care of her?
Yes, sir.
You still want to protect her?
Yes, sir.
You think she's in harm's way now?
She absolutely is, yes.
I'd pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Robbins, did you teach, or did you, whenever you were with Arabella, did you ever teach her any independence?
Any
Independence?
independence? Yes.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think, Josephine mentioned something about teaching her how to be independent. I think maybe during the shower, in the bath. So the reason why I'm asking is because you also mentioned your speculation, because I presume you don't have, it's your opinion if I'm mistaken, right, about coaching?
Yes.
Okay, so when Arabella spoke with Child Safe, you're aware, right, that mom was not in the room.
Yes, sir.
And when she testified here today,
Mhm.
mom was not in the room either,
Two
right?
and a half years later, yes.
Right, so wouldn't Arabella be independent enough to say what really happened to her without the assistance of anyone?
No, I don't believe so.
You don't believe so?
No, sir.
Okay. And I think you don't believe so because, of course, you're in trial today, right?
No,
You don't think so?
no.
Okay. You're not here because, of course, this is a trial, a criminal trial. And therefore, it's either she's lying or she's telling the truth. So you're telling this jury that Arabella, despite telling her mom, despite telling the child safe interviewer, despite telling the nurse or the Center for Miracles, despite taking the stand here and telling 12 people that she doesn't know
Mhm.
about very difficult details about what happened in her life. And you're still saying that she is a liar.
Yes, sir. She's lying.
No further questions.
Just very briefly, why do you think she's lying?
Because her mother has been teaching her these techniques since, I believe, what began in 2020. You can see that there's a pattern here. There's a pattern back in 2020 whenever it started with neglect. She did not get her way. She waited until Arabella got a little bit older, and because the neglect got her nowhere, sexual assault, which is obviously frowned upon in our society, that was brought into the picture.
And you say frowned upon in our society. What's your opinion about people who sexually abuse children?
They should be murdered.
I pass the witness.
No further questions.
All right, you may step down. Defense, call your next witness.
Very, 1 minute, Your Honor. Just 30 seconds. That's reps, Your Honor.
State.
The state does have a rebuttal witness, Judge. The state calls Dr. Natalie Kusun. Thank you, Judge, and thank you for coming back, Dr. Kusun, on such short notice. I understand that state did not give you very much time to come to court.
Yes.
I want to just show you a few exhibits that were entered into evidence. I believe you stated that you specialize in children that have been physically and sexually abused, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you exhibits 1, defense exhibits 1 through 18, and feel free to go through them. They're mainly photographs of what evidence has been established in this trial. The complainant, Arabella, and the defendant, Mr. Robbins. They're pictures that depict very fun activities and very emotional moments in a positive way amongst both individuals. I also would like to show you a video that was entered into evidence. So there's been testimony and evidence that shows that this video was taken at the defendant's residence with Arabella. My question to you is, based on your experience and training, is it common for children to feel love and spend time with the person that they're alleging is hurting them?
Yes.
Can you elaborate and explain why?
When we think about children and what encompasses their world, it's their family. And they don't have any idea that there's anything outside their family, like in the real sense of who's going to take care of them and keep them safe and all those things. When you have someone in your family who's hurting you, that's not the only thing they're doing.
They're also doing fun activities with you. They're also doing other things to take care of you and keep you safe in other ways. So it's not just that this bad thing is happening, but all these other things are happening too. And so they can have both things at the same time, not want this bad thing to happen to them, but also still love and care about and enjoy the fun stuff too.
So, children, and I guess also humans, they can compartmentalize these moments in their lives.
They can compartmentalize. They can take something that's happening and say, okay, this bad thing is happening, but then these other things are happening too. And in these moments, that bad thing isn't happening. So this is fun. This is great. It's fine.
So just because she's having these moments with her biological father, well, what is the significance of a child who is able to take away, right, the trauma that they're going through, but then at the same time is able to spend time with the person that's hurting them?
From my,
Based
for
on your
me,
opinion,
there
yeah.
is no significance. Both things can be true.
No further questions.
Defense?
Thank you, Judge. Thanks for coming back and Doctor. Mr. Saldana was asking some questions, I guess, about how children can compartmentalize and yeah, I guess there's children who are abused that still love the abuser, right?
Yes.
There are also children who, I think you testified about this yesterday, they respond in all different ways, right?
Yes.
There's some that hate their abusers.
Yes.
There's some that outcry immediately, right?
Yes.
There are just, I guess, as many different ways to respond as there are children to this kind of thing, right?
Yes.
So I believe the studies support this, but there's no way that we can look at a picture like this, right? And say that that is consistent with sexual abuse, right?
That's correct.
It's completely possible, right? That a happy picture of a child is a happy picture of a child, right?
Yes.
Just because a child's happy in a picture does not mean they're being sexually abused.
That's correct.
Yes, and vice versa. The same thing is children who are sad also. Just because children are sad, it doesn't mean that they're sexually abused.
That's correct.
And just so we're all clear, you don't know, as far as you don't know anything other than what you testified about in court. You didn't talk to Mr. Robbins or investigate the case or anything like that. Your testimony is limited to what we heard in court.
That's correct.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
One question, Judge. So I guess the conclusion and what we can take out of this is every child is different.
That's correct.
No further questions.
Always like the last word, but I'll pass, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may step down. State, do you rest and close?
Rest and close, Judge.
Defense, do you rest and close?
Rest and close, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back on Monday. We'll be back on Monday at 9:30. There should be no problems with the parking if you come in at 9. All right. You are not allowed to discuss this case with yourself. You're not allowed to view anything about this case. You're not allowed to even think about this case unless you're inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.